let's talk about Congressman Dan Crenshaw. He was confronted by a young woman down in Texas at, I believe, a Tea Party meeting, who was trying to ask him about the differences between how he portrays himself when he's speaking to a broader podcast audience and when he's back home speaking to his constituents and how he portrays himself. Let's take a look at how that went.
To give context to anyone who hasn't heard, Crenshaw said, quote, "The most important thing here is that we have important hero archetypes that we look up to. Jesus is a hero archetype, Superman is a hero archetype. Real characters too. I could name 1,000. Rosa Parks, Ronald Reagan," end quote. I can't wrap my head around this.
Well, I'll help you. Put a period after the word Jesus and don't question my faith.
Wow.
Okay, that's...
Wow, to a 10-year-old girl. Way to go, guy.
There's...
You moron.
Look.
Yeah, you don't talk to a kid like that, sir.
Don't question my faith.
Oh, okay.
You guys can ask questions about all of these things and I will answer them. But don't question my faith.
I can question your faith if this is what you said.
That's... I mean, you can read the quote again. But nowhere in that quote am I saying Jesus is not real. That's a ridiculous statement. Of course he's the Son of God. Of course he's the Son of God, and of course he's real.
You can say two different things. You can say that on a podcast, and you can say this here.
On the podcast, nobody would have understood it that way. I think you're twisting it that way. Which is not very Christian.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon.
It's not. And I'm not going to have my faith questioned. I'm not going to have my faith questioned.
Now, that's what you might call a disproportionate response there, Krystal. Look, got no dog in this fight over the, actual interpretations of evangelism. But to me, it's just extraordinarily disrespectful in order to speak to a young girl constituent that way.
He lost the audience so fast.
Yeah, he did. Especially when she was just quoting you, Congressman. Here is what he actually said. Take a listen.
So that's important. I mean, that's the important thing is that we have societal hero archetypes that we look up to. Jesus is a hero archetype. Superman is a hero archetype. Real characters too. We could name 1,000. Rosa Parks, Ronald Reagan. All of these people embody certain attributes that the American people think this is good.
Yeah, so what she's trying to get at here is, okay, you go on Jocko Willing's podcast and you say, Jesus is a hero archetype, just like Superman, just like also real characters, like Rosa Parks. But when you're back home, Jesus is the literal Son of God, et cetera, et cetera. So listen, again, I'm not here to question his faith, but she is pointing out something that is reasonable, which is, look, there seems to be a bit of a divide between how you're presenting yourself in these spaces versus how you're presenting yourself in this space. The most revealing part, though, is how pissed off. I mean, she really got under his skin here.
Yeah.
And the audience turns on him immediately. You know that you've really lost a conservative audience when they start cheering, "Let's go, Brandon." And he must be feeling sort of like ego bruised because there was a time when he really looked like this sort of up-and-coming star in the GOP. And now more of the super Trump-aligned figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz, they're sort of like the base superstars. And so I think there's some sensitivity there, perhaps.
I find him almost a tragic figure because he really is an unreconstructed neocon. He does seem like he's interpersonally a nice guy. I will give him that.
This is a very bless his heart kind of analysis.
Yeah, look, some people online call him Crenshaw. I would never say that. I'm just saying that some people call him that. And I think that pretty much sums him up pretty well because here's the thing. He does seem unreconstructed in his beliefs, but... And like I said, I literally don't care. I have no dog in this. But I grew up around evangelicals, and to them, this stuff is very important. So I kind of understand, because I'm from Texas, kind of why all this literalism and all that stuff makes a lot of sense and why it's very important to them. And the girl has a point, which is that you're presenting yourself one way whenever it comes to this podcast. And now, you said this. What did you mean? Saying don't question my faith or whatever is a ridiculous way in order to respond to that, especially when she's directly quoting you. And I find the hubris hubris amongst these people to think that when they're representing us, that they are unquestionable, no matter what the question is, to be ludicrous. That's why we decided to highlight it on the show. And by the way, if anybody is listening out there in the state of Texas and would like to ask Congressman Crenshaw a question, let's put this up there on the screen as we alluded to during our stock trading session. Oh, sorry, this is the Newsweek one where we had the direct quote. Put the next one up there, please, which is that Congressman Crenshaw's stock trading return yielded the 5th highest return in all of Congress. In fact, he actually beat Nancy Pelosi in terms of his return.
Wow.
You
Great
should
job,
recall
Congressman.
Pelosi's husband himself is, a 100 millionaire or whatever, and routinely trades multi-million-dollar stock options. So I'm really curious. What did he buy? What's he doing over there? And this is, again, the point, which is that when you have the ability in order to see exactly what these guys are doing and then beat the S&P 500 so dramatically to be the 5th highest returning person in all of Congress, and then you also set up a paradigm through which nobody's allowed to question your good faith or nobody's allowed to question your integrity maybe as a lawmaker without you shouting them down, well, I think that that is a little bit of a problem. And that's what you can see here in terms of the ego, which he's shrouded himself in. And routinely, I've seen him do this with constituents, where constituents and others will confront him and he'll lecture and, kind of talk down to them.
Yeah.
I just think it's the most entitled attitude. It's the worst type of thing that you see amongst an elected representative.
And you see some politicians who can kind of get away with this type of bullying. I mean,
like
Trump is
Christie.
the classic example, and Chris Christie is the other person that I was thinking of. I mean, Chris Christie basically became a thing nationally from like yelling at teachers at town hall meetings. Crenshaw doesn't have the goods to be able to pull that off. I mean, that's very clear from this exchange where the audience just immediately is on the side of this young woman who is ultimately asking the question. Newsweek says she's 18. The clip there said she's 10. I don't know how old she is. It really doesn't matter. The point is that he was an asshole to her, and the audience was really not impressed. Just to put some more meat on the bones in terms of Crenshaw's incredible stock trading performance, if you want a few tips here in how he was able to make so much money. So in March of 2020, he made half a dozen buys while the country went into lockdown and Congress was debating a huge economic stimulus package. That included purchasing stock in Boeing. That's a company that successfully lobbied for billions of dollars from the CARES Act. Not to mention, he also failed to disclose all of those trades for months, which is actually a violation of the law, the Stock Act, which at least gives us some transparency around what these jokers are doing.
Wow, that's just incredible. But, it's very revealing as to what exactly goes on behind the scenes. So once again, I mean, we should hold our elected leaders accountable. That's exactly what that young woman was doing. She was asking him a question. Nothing is out of bounds when you're questioning an elected representative, and acting that way is disgraceful.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching.
That's right. Just as a reminder, you can become a premium subscriber today. Watch the full show completely uncut, our reactions to each other's monologues. You get to listen to it. You get to ask us questions. All that good stuff. Link is right there in the description or at breakingpoints.com.
Best of all, great way to say screw you to the mainstream media.